Hello and welcome to everyone. Today we've got a real legend of this sport, the first Turkish UFC fighter. It's Alp Ozkillic. So, Alp, can you please say a few sentences on yourself? Just introduce to our fans.
Well, as you said, my name is Alp. Alptekin is my first name. That's what I like to go by. My friends call me Alp. I was the first Turkish UFC fighter. Um, I wrestled in college in America. I wrestled for the national team back in Turkey. I wrestled in college in America, and then I was able to make it to the UFC. So I've been all around the world. I'm a huge fan of the sport. I still train. I still, I love what I've done in the past, and I'm just a simple guy who lived his dream.
When did you start training martial arts for the first time? Were you a toddler, a kid?
I actually started training so I went to college in St. Louis, Missouri, in the United States.
Yeah?
And so after I graduated, I started training in a small town called St. Charles in Missouri. And my team was called St. Charles MMA. And I pretty much, started there. That was my first team, and that's where I got into the UFC. And, I was from a small team and from a small town. And, we did okay. We did pretty good.
That's outstanding. Do you have a nickname? I think you had one. Correct me if I'm wrong.
They, they call me the Turkish Delight. Not that I love here's the thing, not that I love the nickname, but it was given to me. People liked it, and my friends and my teammates named me that way, so I accepted it. You know what I mean? And it was fun. It was funny. It was sarcastic, so I took it. I accepted it.
Yeah, just like fans gave a nickname to me, and I was like in the first place, all right, go for it, and then you accept it as the time goes by, but it's very funny.
What's your nickname?
Yeah,
What was your nickname?
my nickname, the Bulgarian Cowboy.
Oh, okay, all right. I
When you
like
watch
it.
my channel, you will see why.
Okay, okay, I will. I will look into it for sure.
No problem. I will upload our video. I assume I will upload it. I will upload it on Monday because I'm not home right now. But no problem.
Okay.
All right. You were growing up in Turkey. Turkey back then,
I
when you competed, Turkey was not that much popular in the world of mixed martial arts back then. So, how was it growing up in a non-MMA state?
Um, even I knew nothing about mixed martial arts. Like I said, I grew up as a wrestler, and I grew up. I started wrestling at a young age, and I wrestled all the way through college. And even in the United States, when I started training, nobody else was doing it. Oh, there was a couple people doing it in Turkey. And I pretty much I spent half of my life in America, so it doesn't really, it didn't really matter to me because I pretty much grew up in the United States as well. So it wasn't that much more different, but I didn't really have a lot of Turkish people to look up to as far as mixed martial arts go. So I pretty much learned the sport in America and just from other fighters. So it didn't really make a huge difference because I didn't have a lot of because I grew up here. I grew up in America, so you know.
Would you call yourself, if we talk about your fundamental martial art, would you say that you're primarily a wrestler or you're primarily a mixed martial artist?
I always called myself more of a wrestler, and even when I started losing fights, I think because I got away from wrestling, and I tried to become more of a striker. I think that was one of my biggest mistakes when I started losing fights towards the end of my career because I got away from wrestling, and I should have stayed as a wrestler probably. But there's nothing wrong with being just a wrestler. A wrestler who knows how to strike, who knows how to ground and pound. I think that's a great style. But I'm still a student of the game. I'm as a fan. I'm not competing anymore, but I'm still a fan of the game, and I still love learning. And I think mixed martial arts is just a lifestyle too. So it's a lifelong process that's you got to go through. So am I a mixed martial artist? No, but I am a huge fan of mixed martial arts. Because I wouldn't want to call myself a mixed martial artist and disrespect the real mixed martial artists out there. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. You said you're a wrestler. Do you have favorite takedown or throw? Considering that you're primarily a wrestler. Do you have one?
I always do. I was famous in college for doing upper body stuff because I also back in Turkey I wrestled Greco-Roman, and I was a huge fan of like upper like bear hugs and like throwing people. So I was a huge throw guy. So I would just like lock my hands like a bear hug position, and like inside trips, outside trips. I wasn't huge into like shooting double legs and stuff. I was more of an upper body guy. So I loved headlocks and arm throws, all of that. Greco-Roman stuff was my thing. So all of those.
Outstanding. Can we discuss your first amateur MMA fight?
My first amateur MMA fight was so I wrestled mostly at 125 pounds, which is like 57 kilos, I think. So nobody really wanted to, I wasn't able to find any amateur fights because I was a pretty good wrestler trying to find amateur fights. So nobody would wanted to fight me. So my first amateur fight was against a guy who had about 10 fights at the time, who had about 10 amateur fights. And it's my first fight, remember. And it was at 145 pounds, which is like 66 kilos, which is like heavy for me. And I knocked him out in like 40 seconds or something. And as soon as it was over, I was like, that's it. And I told my coach, I was like, you have to get me another fight as soon as possible. I was like, that was too quick. I just want another one. I want to get the real fight. So yeah, that was a quick fight for me. My first one was 30, 40 seconds, a quick knockout.
Can you pinpoint to the hardest amateur opponent?
My hardest amateur opponents?
Yeah.
I went undefeated as an amateur. I mean, they weren't necessarily like hard opponent, like tough opponents. It was just me trying to figure out the game because I was very new to it. You know, I didn't really have a tough. I mean, no, I did pretty good during my amateur career.
Can we discuss your first professional fight? How did you feel heading into first professional fight? It's usually a very, very huge step in the career of every fighter.
I think the biggest part was my first professional fight. I won the distance, and you know, stepping up. So amateur MMA fights are 3 rounds, 3-minute rounds. So it's only a 9-minute fight. So going into my first professional fight being 5 3-minute rounds. I'm sorry, 3 5-minute rounds was a huge difference, and I think that was the biggest challenge for me because you really have to change a lot of things. You have to change your pace, and I wasn't able to wrestle a lot in that fight because I got tired. I didn't know what I was walking into, and I think the time longer rounds was a bigger impact. That was my biggest challenge, I think, during my first professional MMA fight.
All right. How did your second professional MMA fight go?
I think I choked. I think I choked him in the first round. I think it was an arm triangle in the first round, so that was quick. And then I had a lot of decisions throughout my professional MMA career. The thing with smaller guys is it's very high pace, so you don't get to see a lot of finishes. So unfortunately I went the distance a lot, and that's why I had to have good cardio.
Yeah, I agree absolutely. So before your UFC career, you lost only once, right?
I only lost once. I lost to a guy, I still remember, I lost to a guy named Chico Camus from Rufus Sport, Duke Rufus, who's a very famous coach. So he was from his gym. And it was a very close decision. I'm not sure if it was a split decision or unanimous, but it was a very close fight. And he was a lot more experienced than me at the time. And actually, after he beat me, he went into the UFC. UFC picked him up. And then that also gave me motivation to see, hey, I wasn't very far behind. So that kind of, kept me motivated to keep training. And actually, I was like, I can make it to the UFC. So
I'll be honest with you. You caught my attention even before arriving to the UFC because back at that time I followed Antonio Banuelos pretty much, He's an older fighter, but I followed him. And when you fought him, I was like, alright, it's gonna be 2-3 round war. I knew he's a good stand-up guy. I knew that. But you kinda pretty much surprised him in that fight. So can you please describe what happened?
Actually, what's funny is my very good friend and teammate Josh Sampo fought Antonio Banuelos before me, and I'm trying to remember. They fought for a different promotion, I think. I'm not sure, but he went and had a 3-minute war with him. Like my friend Josh Sambo pretty much dominated the fight, but they went the distance. It was a very good fight, and my friend won. And so there I pretty much got to see, because I train with Josh Sampo every day, pretty much my whole career. And so that gave me a lot of, that pretty much gave me the blueprint. I knew how I was going to be able to fight him. But early on, I was able to connect a good punch and able to knock him out. I thought I was going to go to distance too. I was ready for a 3-round war. I don't know if I was lucky or, but it was just my night. I landed a good punch and, knocked him out. Yeah, you know?
Yeah, it was a fantastic knockout, man, and
And,
I assume
and
after, yeah.
yeah. And that's when, after that fight, I was able to get a lot of attention from the UFC and different promotions. That's when I was recognized pretty much. So that was a big step up for me.
Yeah, a big step up. And tell me one thing: when you inked that UFC contract, you really wrote a history. There was no Turk before you in the UFC. So, how did you feel? Did you become the legend of Turkey? I mean, did you? How was it? Did you get a lot of attention, or?
To be honest, see, like where I come from is a little different, man. Like UFC wasn't as big when I was signed to the UFC, and it's very different with Turkish people and how they want to support you. We are a huge soccer nation, obviously. All we watch is football, and at the time, I mean, I got some attention, but not the attention we wanted, where it would take my career to the next level. But at the end of the day, it's crazy. People actually find out about me even now today. The more UFC they watch, they realize, wait a second, there was actually a UFC fighter from Turkey a while ago. You know what I mean? So it's what it is. I've done what I could. I just want to help the new guys, up and coming Turkish guys, and hopefully, if I can help them get into the UFC, I'll be more than pleased. So.
Can we discuss your first UFC fight? Was it against, how was, Darren Uyenoyama? Did I say well?
Yama, yeah. It was dude. I called the UFC called on a 2-3 week notice, and they told me I was gonna fight Darren Uyenoyama, and I said of course, and I knew who he was, and he beat Kid Yamamoto. Was it Kid Yamamoto? No, I think he beat Kid Yamamoto before. He's fought some legends too. He fought in Japan and he fought some big names before, and I knew he was a very high level grappler. So I was not scared, but I was worried, of course. Darren is a great grappler, and I had to have a good game plan to win that fight, obviously. It's funny, I was a blue belt in Jiu-Jitsu until UFC called me, and my coach gave me my purple belt about a week before the fight as a confidence booster, because I was worried about our grappling level, like me versus Darren. And, my coach wanted to give me my purple belt and maybe, kind of, boost my confidence. And actually, Darren and I became very good friends after the fight. We still talk every once in a while. We have nothing but respect for each other. And that's what I loved about the sport. You know what I mean? Like being able to be friends after a fight and actually learn from each other. Like Darren and I have nothing but respect. We talk sometimes. I still would love to go visit him and learn something from him. He's a very high level grappler, very respected guy. So, it was a great experience. It was incredible.
What do you think about Louis Smolka as the opponent?
Look, to be honest, I shouldn't have taken that fight. It's in the past, obviously. Smolka is still fighting and active in the UFC, and I think he's doing very good. He even got cut, and he made it back to the UFC. I think he's a very tough guy. But I shouldn't have taken that fight just because I had fought a month before. So what happened was I ended up fighting twice in a month. And for a small guy, cutting 20 pounds, cutting 10 kilos twice in a month, I gassed in the second and the third round. If you watch that fight back, I won the first round easily, and then I gassed. I was done. I had nothing else left in me. And then Smolka just kept punching me. I didn't feel anything. I was just trying to survive. He didn't hurt me. To be honest, at the time he wasn't my caliber. I was just kind of advised the wrong way. My managers called me, hey, my managers wanted me to fight and make money again, and I didn't know. I should have just waited. Well, why would you fight twice in a month? I am just signed to the UFC. That was very stupid of me. But I was young and dumb. I didn't know any better. if I was able to do it again, I would do it differently. But he wasn't my caliber at the time. I think he's a lot better now. I was at a very high level, and I think that definitely that changed my career in a bad way, unfortunately. So.
People say that the John Lineker is the greatest puncher the bantamweight division has ever produced. Do you agree or not?
Uh, no, he is the heaviest hitter for sure. He's not the best fighter. He's not very well rounded. Again, that's my fault for fighting him the way I fought. I should have just wrestled him. Before that, Ali Bagatino, beat him easily just because he wrestled him. But I was, like I said, I kind of got away from wrestling, and I just wanted to test my boxing skills. And I was a tough guy. I just wanted to, stand there and bang with him, which was a mistake. But yeah, he is the hardest hitting person I've ever fought for sure.
How did your last UFC fight go?
I fought and again, terrible experience. I ended up fighting in Australia, and I flew there weeks before the fight, 2 weeks before the fight, and cutting weight and all the traveling, all of that didn't really play in my favor. And at the time, to be honest, I was on some sleeping medication to be able to sleep and kind of, get rid of jet lag and all of that. That didn't help me. And then I didn't know I was supposed to fight early morning in Australia. I thought we were gonna fight in the evening because I went to Australia 2 weeks before the fight and I was already acclimated. And I fought at 9 a.m. in the morning, which means we had to leave the hotel room at 6 a.m. And I didn't have a lot of time to recover before the fight because we had to wait in at 11 a.m. Australia time. And then I was up at 6 a.m. and I cut a lot of weight. I didn't have enough time to recover. So, my chin wasn't all there. That definitely makes a huge difference. And, I got knocked out at the end of the first round. It was a little bit of an early stoppage, but still no excuses. You know what I mean? It wasn't my best performance, so.
So why did you retire from MMA and how does your life look today?
I enjoy my life a lot more. I have less stress. I ended up so after UFC, I ended up going to China. I got a deal out there with Kunlun Fights, and I enjoyed it in China. I got to travel the world, and I got to coach there. I got to train with some good guys, and But after that, I ended up having a couple of surgeries, and I just didn't like where my body was going. As you get older, and unfortunately, I was treated by a bunch of doctors who didn't know what they were doing. I ended up having a hip surgery. My hip started affecting my back. So training and fighting wasn't as fun for me anymore because I had to spend so much time going to physical therapists all the time, just trying to take care of my body. It was just not fun for me. And so I decided to just hold it because I knew where I was and what I was able to do, and I know I'm not there anymore. So I don't want to do it. I don't want to be an average fighter. If I can't perform at my best, why do it? All it's going to happen is take more damage, and I don't want to do that. So I have to call it. And I'm happy with my life now. I still coach. I have a small business that's going on, and I'm still involved in the sport. I still go train with my friends and help them and stuff. So, I have less stress in my life. Let me put it that way.
How's your health status at the moment?
Physically, I'm not the healthiest. I was just waiting for this Corona thing to be over. So I honestly want to fly to Turkey, and get checked and see what needs to be done. Because my family is still there, so if I need to have a surgery, I want to do it out there and spend time with my family too. So I get by, I get through the day, but as I get older, I still have a little more things to come up. I'm still having little issues here and there. So, and unfortunately, I'm seeing that a lot more from other older fighters. So I think everybody needs to be careful and make sure you retire on time and take care of your health. That's very important.
Would you like to add anything in this interview? Is there something we maybe missed, or would you like to greet someone?
No. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to talk to you. Were you in Bulgaria, by the way?
I live in Serbia. I grew up. I grew up in the foreign state, live in foreign state, and so. But by ethnicity Bulgaria, but I live in Serbia.
But you're Bulgarian actually.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I've been to Serbia too. I've been to Belgrade. Beautiful place.
Hey, I live in Belgrade.
Oh wow, nice. If I ever make it again, I'll definitely stop by and see you. I had a lot of friends in college from Serbia. They all play soccer.
Yeah, of course. I live in Belgrade. If you come, you can always contact me. No problem.
Oh, for sure. I had a lot of great friends from Serbia. They played water polo and they play soccer and
Awesome.
basketball. Sorry, and they play basketball too.
Yeah, we are pretty much good in basketball, but Turkey is better right now, I think.
Turkey is yes, thank you. That's what I wanted to hear.
I don't follow much, but my father follows basketball a lot. And when we play against Turkey, when Serbia plays against Turkey, he sometimes doesn't want to watch at all. He's like, no, 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 they are too strong.
Oh wow. Well, Serbia is very good. I remember Serbia is very good actually. We always had a hard time in Serbia playing against them. So.
Yeah, I live in Serbia. I'm pretty much okay here, I got used to, That's it. I grew up here and, but ethnicity is ethnicity. You can't change it.
Of course, of course, of course. Well, I'd like to say hi to everyone in Serbia and Bulgaria. Good people. I feel like it's our people, that region. So, hope to see more fighters from that area. Yeah.
I hope too. Blagoy Ivanov fights next weekend against Augusto Sakai, and of course I'm gonna root for Blagoy.
Of course, I don't blame you. So here, I'll root for you guys too.
Yeah, thank you so much for this, and I will post this on Monday because right now I'm not at home, but I will post it on Monday.
Yeah. Whenever you can, man. Thank you. Thanks, Vladimir. Thanks for hitting me up.
All right, thank you. Alp. Have a great day. Thank you for this opportunity.
Of course, you too, brother. Have a good one.